What is up, everyone? Welcome to another edition of the Refined Roundtable. I am Brandon Bernstead, joined as always by Britt Thorson and Abby Lushai. It is a beautiful day in the Pacific Northwest, quarantine day unknown, and we are here to provide a little relief to break down some hot pop culture topics and hopefully just give you a little escapism content on a Friday or anytime you watch that this weekend. Guys, first topic right off the bat. Britt, you brought this to my attention. Kylie Jenner remains the youngest self-made billionaire. There's the headline on Forbes.
Yeah,
what do we make of this?
I feel just as strongly about this year as I did when I think we probably had almost the exact same roundtable discussion about this last year. And I'm probably just repeating myself. So if we find the tape, we should just roll it. But I don't understand how she's self-made or how she can have any sort of self-made title. She is a Kardashian Jenner. Their entire empire has been built up by her sisters, by her as part of the show. I feel like all of the actual self-made people out there seeing this are just like want to shoot themselves because no part of her is self-made. I understand that Kylie Cosmetics is her company and she made the company. That's great. But her name awareness. What do you guys think? Am I out of my mind here?
No, I think you're right. It's just a self-made with everything attached to her. There's just absolutely no way. Like, I know a lot of people who become billionaires and millionaires get help from like their family or like starter money, which is like, sure. But I just, with how famous she is, I don't feel like if you would have taken her, if like her family wasn't famous and then she tried to launch Kylie Cosmetics, do you think it would have even taken off? Probably not. So
Yeah.
I'm going to play devil's advocate here because
okay.
I think that you play the hand you're dealt. And ultimately, Kylie Jenner was born with a name and certainly some means there. Like, look, she had, advantages that the most folks do not. But she also built a successful brand, has a massive following, is an influencer, like probably the influencer on social media. Like, yes, she had advantages, but she also made the most of them. She took advantage of them. And I'm not like a Kardashians fan. Like, I appreciate how well they've done, but I'm not somebody who regularly checks in on what's going on with
You
them.
don't keep up with the Kardashians?
I am absolutely not keeping up with the Kardashians, but I appreciate how well they have
capitalized
on what they have.
Great business acumen for sure. I think for me, and I agree with everything you just said, Brandon, I think for me, and maybe it's just the way I'm viewing it, is in my head, the show, Keeping Up with Our Kardashians, is the trunk of their tree. And so every single branch that comes off it, with like Kim's lingerie line and like Kylie's cosmetic line, each of those individually is very successful in a flourishing branch. But I don't think there's any way they could have done it without the trunk, of which they're all part. So I guess maybe I'm saying that if I were any of Kylie's siblings and they're seeing this like youngest self-made, they're all just like, can you imagine Kim right now? She's like, no one would even know who anyone in this family was if it wasn't for me, let alone my littlest sister who likes to play with makeup.
Yeah, that's fair.
I can't disagree with you there. I think it's a matter of I guess semantics at a certain level, but like, I do agree that self-made is a relative term, and in this case maybe she wasn't completely self-made, but I think props for at least capitalizing on what you were given and building it into something bigger than what it was. The fact that she's a billionaire is insane.
Yeah.
All right, so we put Kylie to bed. I want to go to one of my favorite people to talk about, Justin Timberlake. Big Timberlake fans in the Refined office, myself included. And he went on Hot Ones, which is a pretty electrifying YouTube show, and ranked His albums, yeah, there he is. You have to eat spicy wings and answer questions. They're actually like really good interviews, which is stunning. And here's his album rankings. This is just the solo albums. Future Sex of Love Sounds #1, according to JT, followed by Justified, 2020 Part 1, Man of the Woods, and 2020 Part 2. What do we think of these rankings?
I have so many thoughts.
Go.
First of
This
all,
is your time.
I'm really happy that I was very worried when I saw this headline that he had ranked his albums. I was like, oh my gosh, he's going to have put Man of the Woods at #1. I was like almost positive because that was like his, this is who I really am. This is the artist I've wanted to be for a while, all of these things. And like, while I will be a Justin fan till the day I die, and I really want to support him in everything he does, that might have been my least favorite album. And so if he was going to put that at #1, I would be a little bit worried about his self-reflection kind of period. I do like that he had it lower. I think he was able to realize that maybe what he thought about him as an artist versus what his fans thought were a little different. I do think it was a huge miss to not have Justified as #1.
Me too. Same.
Yeah.
Okay, why?
I mean, because the songs, the mark that he made with that album and the number of bangers on that album, instead of just like a couple, it was almost like every single one. I mean, when you say Justin Timberlake, if you aren't like quickly saying like Rock Your Body or Cry Me a River or Like I Love You, I mean, are you? Yeah, I guess Sexy Back is in there too, but mostly I feel like he's known for some of his Justified stuff, obviously aside from NSYNC. But I feel like he couldn't really put that higher up because it was a time that was so like, I think, weird for him, and like Britney and like the Cry Me a River scandals. I feel like he like almost, because Jessica was right over his shoulder being like, you better not put Justified as #1. But I don't know. What do you think should have been #1, Brandon?
I have a bigger question. This is just my thought. Timberlake's recent stuff, I think we can all agree, has not been his best stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I saw him in concert when he came for the 2020 tour, when he came to Key Arena, and it was like one of the coolest concerts I've ever seen. The dude live is insane. Full backing band, just ripping the vocals. He's dancing. The stage is moving over the top of you. It's crazy. My question is, at this point in his career, should they run it back with NSYNC for one tour? Because, like, to me,
100%.
that would be the biggest concert tour when we can actually have tours again.
Yeah.
In a decade, even if they do it in like Vegas and do a Vegas residency.
Well,
that would be so huge.
You see how successful it was with the Backstreet Boys. I just like, why not? Like, there's like, it's, people are just waiting at this point because it's like, you see the Backstreet Boys go into it, they got super successful, doing it again, and so I'm just like, why are they dragging their feet? Like, why aren't they just doing it now?
I wonder if it's Justin specifically dragging his feet. Do you think like he doesn't want to be kind of like put back there? Do you think it's kind of a larger, just like kind of, that's what everyone expects us to do, so we're not going to do it thing?
Maybe.
I think that it's 100% Justin. Like, my big thing is, it's definitely the fact that he has eclipsed the rest of his band members. Whereas if you look at the Backstreet Boys, they're better together than they are apart. Yeah. Like, I mean, the rest of NSYNC is a bunch of like B-C level celebs at this point. Like, Lance Bass officiated a wedding on Vanderpump Rules. Okay.
Yep.
Like, that was a thing that he did recently.
Very true.
Like, but I just think that they could capitalize on it, give the fans what they want. Timberlake gets back into the good graces after some maybe less than great headlines recently, or semi-recently. And it's just like, it's a little bit of a nostalgia. It's a little bit of feel good. Like,
totally.
The Backstreet Boys did it and it was lit. Why not run it back?
Yep. 100%. I'm agree.
Okay. So everyone agrees they should run it back. Now, Britt, this was a topic you brought to my attention. We're going to bring it down just a notch.
Okay.
The chances right now, the NFL draft is coming up in a couple weeks. I am stoked. This is like basically Christmas for me. I love the NFL draft. But it is right now the last thing on the sports calendar in the foreseeable future. I used to cover sports for a long time before I got into lifestyle and started working for Refined. And there are some thought that we could be living in a year without sports for the rest of the year. How do you guys first feel about that? And then I'll share my takes, because certainly right now, the idea of having a spectator sport is not something that is realistic.
I'm so sad because in, the last several years, I've become much more of a sports person, mainly because of like the camaraderie and like the social gatherings that happen with it. Like I love, the energy and all that stuff. So I'm just really sad about that. But I'm also sad because I finally moved back to Seattle and I was so excited for like Mariners games and Seahawks games and all of that stuff. And not having that in the future is sad, but I get it. But that's pretty much my take on it. I'm just sad.
Yeah, I think I hadn't even really realized that it was something being considered until I saw it. And I don't think anything's been for sure finalized in terms of, 2020 sports just being canceled, but it has been floated and talked about a little bit. And I will be the first to say I'm not a huge sports fan. I don't like football. I know. More because I don't understand it than I don't enjoy watching it. But it's more of kind of what it will do to our culture and our community and our society. Can you imagine in America where there's not a football season? I mean, half of the ads that are out there, half of the content, there's just the ripple effect of not having that, even on people who are self-proclaimed football fans or sports fans, I think is huge. And it does, again, it just makes me kind of sad. Obviously there are much larger things going on with the coronavirus, but it's a aspect of our culture that I think is going to be, again, who even knows what the ripple effects of that will be. I think a lot of really, really sad people on Sundays.
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of thinking about this. I consume a lot of sports content in my free time. I am an ultimate sports fan. And here's kind of where I stand, is that I think everything is predicated on, at the expense of getting too in the weeds, there being testing readily available for the entire population, so that if athletes are getting tested, you're not taking a test away from somebody who genuinely needs it. It's also predicated on us flattening the curve and doing all that. Okay, that aside, there are certain leagues who are going to go on. Golf has already said they're going to start in June and play without fans. And quite frankly, golf is the perfect socially distanced sport, because if you don't have fans there, you're essentially just playing on an empty golf course with like a few people around. You can do that well. The NBA is positioned next year, if everything goes right, or the end of this year, they start their season typically around Halloween, to play, because they have small rosters. You have 5 guys on the court at a time for each team. They can test them out. They could theoretically play even in a state like Texas, where you've got San Antonio, Houston, Dallas. You've got a bunch of courts there that you could play on. And football is going to play without fans because, quite frankly, the revenue's too big. People like watching football. Like, Seattle's a football town.
Yeah.
And people will sit down on a Sunday, even if there's no fans in the stands, to watch a game. I don't think college sports are going on. I think the MLB is a 50-50 shot. The biggest change that we're going to see this year, and maybe for the foreseeable future until we get a handle on a vaccine or something like that, is that they're going to be playing in empty stadiums. Because I personally, as somebody who loves to go to Seahawks games, Cougar games, I make a pilgrimage 2-3 times a year to Pullman to do it. I'm not going to go sit in a stadium with a bunch of people that I don't know, given the current situation. And I think that the vast majority of people would say that's a risk I'm not willing to take. So I think sports continue. It's just going to be a lot leaner than it is. And it's also predicated on certain things outside the control of sports leagues to do it.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's my monologue.
Yeah. No, I think agreed. I think ironically, like MLB might be the one sport, again, aside from the crowds, where it's like they are the farthest apart from each other out there anyways. So if anything is going to go, hypothetically, it would.
And they've been talking about, like, there's a plan that's being tossed around where the teams are sequestered in Arizona and they're all playing at fields throughout because spring training is obviously down there and things like that. That's getting some pushback from the players union and some things like that. So, I mean, really it's super fluid. I don't think that sports will be starting in any capacity, maybe besides golf, until later this summer or fall at the latest, which stinks because it is such a good sports time we're missing right now. This would be the Masters, March Madness, like the NBA heating up, NHL going, football getting ripping. Like it is just my soul hurts.
And it would give us something to do. I mean, again, we're inside. We're like our one aspect of getting to the world is through the internet and through the television, and you're taking away a big, not your, but you know what I mean? Like we all have taken away a big thing that we can consume, and we're desperate for things to consume right now. So.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm not like, since the Sonics left, I'm not a huge NBA guy, but straight up, if they started playing basketball, it would just be on my TV 24/7 because I like watching live sports. Even if I'm not fully engaged, there is something about seeing a live activity and having that communal aspect of watching it all together with a bunch of people. Okay, speaking of things, sports, we're not sure if they're canceled. One thing we are sure, unfortunately, that is canceled, it's Capitol Hill block party, which is, I guess, not the biggest surprise in the world. This is the article on SeattleRefined.com right now. Abby wrote it up. So guys, just talk to me a little bit about this. Certainly a bummer and also not a surprise.
Yeah, I'm super, obviously, it's sad. And I'm a big festival goer. I go to at least 1 or 2 festivals a year, and I have since college. I love music festivals. And so this one really was sad. And it just makes me wonder what else is going to be canceled. I have a music festival in Canada coming up in July, and I doubt it's going to happen.
Yeah, just get the refund now.
I know. And so it's just, I'm curious, like, when they're going to, like, you know, announce it or anything. It makes me sad because it, like sports, these are the things I look forward to, and I like going with my friends, and like they're, you know, one of my favorite things to do. And so it just really sucks seeing them be canceled.
And I think for me, one of the things that stood out about specifically Capitol Hill block party being canceled is that this was slated for late July. And in terms of the timeline of how long we really think this is going to go, obviously everyone's still guessing right now. But in my head, at least, you know, the governor has said May 4th. And so in my head, I'm like, okay, May 4th, things are going to start wrapping up, you know, and again, if it's postponed a week or so, that's not much. But if people are thinking end of July, things are still possibly going to be how they are right now, I mean, I feel like Capitol Hill block party, this was a sobering moment for me to realize, like, this is like summer is not going to be summer, you know, Pride, solstice, all these other really big things that we think about for Seattle summers, they're preemptively being canceled. And I mean, you know, end of July goes into August, goes into September, like how long? And I think it just gets back to the thing we're all thinking about right now, which is like, how long is this going to be?
Well, I think that I know that, so there was an event in Oregon that got canceled, and that happens late July too. And when I was talking to the, you know, executive director about that, she basically said that March is when they plan. Like when it's March, that's when plans are really like, you know, like full mode. They're planning. They have to let people know. They have to like pay people, or they have to, you know, rent stuff. And so it's like, if you don't, you can't just like get to, you know, say June and then make a decision, because you have to put down deposits and all that kind of stuff. And so I think maybe that could have been what happened with Capitol Hill block parties. They're like, well, we're supposed to be signing contracts and renting, you know, equipment.
Yeah.
And they were like, we don't know if we're going to be still in this, and we can't risk that because then, you know, they lose all this money. So maybe it has something to do with that.
Yeah. Good point.
Yeah, fair point. And I think that goes back to the same thing that we've been talking about with sports a little bit, which is just like, until we get a handle on this thing, large crowds just seem like they're not the greatest idea in the world, and that stinks. I mean, honestly, at this point, I would take our summer with being able to like hang out with a few friends somewhere and like enjoy a drink or go to a restaurant or do something like that. Like, we can get some semblance of regular life back, then I'll take it in slow increments.
Yeah, you're right.
As long
Instead of
as-
going 0 to 100 in terms of like thousands at a festival, maybe 0 to 10 and like 4 friends for game night or something.
I was gonna say, I remember the scene last year when Lizzo played, and you showing the video and I was like, it was one of the most insane things I've ever seen. So it's like, let's get back to that, but let's do it in a reasonable
Step by step. Good point.
All right.
Good point.
So we had like a little bit of a downer conversation about some things we love that are maybe not going to happen or not happen the same way. Let's bring it up. Let's give people some recommendations for some stuff that they can watch or listen to or read. I'll go first because I've been thinking about filling the sports void. There's one show that does just that, guys. MTV's The Challenge is back, and let me tell you, it is electric. Now, it's been on, I think this is season 35, so big season, or 36. You know it as like the old Real World Road Rules Challenge. It's gotten more athletic. There's still the interpersonal drama. There's still the hooking up. There's still all of that. It's like Survivor meets Big Brother meets professional athletics. I could not recommend it more highly. If you watched in the old days and you remember like Johnny Bananas and Wes and CT, guess what? They're still there. All your friends are still there.
They're never leaving.
Just that is, we're all looking for just some escapism. Really quality content.
I just love how pumped up you get about it.
Yeah.
So
Anything.
good.
I feel like
So
reality television, this is the moment to
Yeah.
get into it, because it's just so much that it can really take up a lot of time. I'm gonna throw out a podcast. I'm a big podcast listener, and one of my favorites is called Binge Mode. If you guys have heard of it, the Ringer podcast, and
Oh yeah.
they're so long and detailed and perfect, the episodes, that it can take up so much time and you get so into it. The hosts are incredible, and they have it for Harry Potter, Game of Thrones, which is the one that I recommend. Yes. Every time I'd watch a Game of Thrones episode, a new one, I would listen to their podcast episode about it, and it just, the things that they pick up on are just incredible. And then they just did Star Wars. So there's a lot to choose from, and it's just really incredible. You can find it anywhere you get podcasts.
Hard cosign on that. We did the same thing in our house. The binge mode for Game of Thrones is amazing, and as you said, really great time killer too.
Oh, it's so good.
All right, Britt, you're up.
So it's technically not out yet, but this weekend is the premiere of 2 of my absolute favorite shows, which is propelling me forward during quarantine. And that is Killing Eve and Insecure are back this weekend, which are both phenomenal shows. Insecure is hilarious. Issa Rae is just I mean, I could just perfection. And then Killing Eve is Sandra Oh's show. And it also was written by the gal who, God, what's her name? In
Phoebe
Fleabag.
Waller-Bridge.
Yes, which it's Hollywood's sweetheart right now. She's again was so good in Fleabag, and she started with Killing Eve, and it's a fantastic show that I can't wait to jump back into again. So those are things I'm very much looking forward to this weekend, and then again, you can look forward to them every week and give your life a little bit more routine than the 0% routine I've got right now.
And let's be real, there are a couple seasons in, so like if you want to go back and binge an old season to get caught up, guess what? You probably have the time.
In fact, you do. Unless you're a frontline worker, in which case we salute you.
Yes, shout out to you. All right.
Okay,
finally,
guys.
Anything we want to plug before we sign off for the weekend here?
I just want to plug staying mentally sound and healthy and happy, obviously physically, but I've been talking to a lot of my friends lately who are just starting, now that we're a month in, maybe 5 weeks in. This is the time when I think people are starting to feel the loneliest and starting to feel the saddest sometimes. And I just want to get a little mushy right now and just say, we see you, we hear you. That's half the reason why we're trying to do these things. Obviously, yes, it's the 3 of us talking together, but You can talk to us too. Email us, Instagram us. We're just sitting at home trying to do stuff too. So know that what is everyone saying? We're alone together, right? So we're really trying to do that here on Refined as well. So that's my little mushy thing of the moment.
And everyone should get in on the comments and give us your takes, because
or tell us if there's certain things you want us to talk about next week. Sometimes we're like, okay, what do we talk about? And honestly, if we're talking about The Bachelor too much, that's fine. Give us something else to talk about, please.
Heart airs Monday.
Yeah, I will be watching. I will be doing power rankings for our Bachelor Facebook group. I wasn't planning on watching the show, but then quarantine happened, and guess what? I'm gonna watch.
Right? So it's gonna go quick.
Oh yeah, it's like 6 weeks.
I'm gonna go ahead and hand that fully off to you two. I'd like you to own this and run with it. I don't think that I can watch it. I just can't do it.
Okay.
That's fine. We will let you watch Killing Eve and Insecure.
Great.
And we will talk again next week. Hope everyone stays safe, stays inside, and salute to all those of you who are on the front lines battling this thing and letting us basically remain safe and in quarantine here. So thank you to all of you.
Thank you.
We'll see you next week. Have a great weekend, guys.
Bye.